Hi guys, I hope you had a great weekend and I hope you have an even better week. So for today, um, I have my notes right here. I'm going to give you some feedback on what you submitted. As I always do, cover two chapters and actually the last two chapters. So we did it, guys. We finished our book, right? And before I forget, I have to say that tomorrow we have office hours from 8 to 11, and our synchronous meeting, our fourth synchronous meeting, is at 11, from 11 to 11:45. I'm going to show it on Moodle, where I'm guessing we're going to talk about draft one. Okay. All right. So LO20, 87%. There is a question about how do we where do we find the research rationale, and most of you didn't get it right. So if you go to page 360, there is a statement that is pretty straightforward about where we cover or where we can find the research rationale. Okay. LO 21, 86%, no items for me, specific items to address. All right, so let me go ahead and share our Moodle site. All right, I hope you can see it. So for Sunday, and we are right here. So for Sunday, those are the last two chapters for today, right? So for Sunday, we have LO 22 and LO 23. Today we're covering a little bit the peer review process and how we can disseminate our results to a broader audience. Okay. And then the synchronous meeting, which was moved from Wednesday to Tuesday. So tomorrow, the 20th at 11. Okay. Again, you get your points. We talked about it. It's non-mandatory. So you can visit during office hours, but also you can visit during the synchronous meeting or both if you think that you need something and you need more time. Okay. All right. So, and then as you can see, for next week, we have this draft, our first draft. So that's for next Sunday, but also have a synchronous meeting on Wednesday at noon, if I remember well. Yes. So we'll have some time to talk about it there too. However, tomorrow is a great opportunity to visit, connect, and me answer some questions about draft one, which actually I want to make a comment because I received a couple of emails. So I guess I think I can cover something right now. So the topic is yours. You have to decide. You know what you want to do in this FLO folder. If you go here, I have a couple of examples that I did. I will start from here, the application. And the application would lead you to give me whatever else you want to give me. All right. For the sample size, there's the G power. And doing a lit review, that's a way to do lit review. I just put it up there in case somebody doesn't know how to do it. I have a couple of examples, but the thing is, you take this human subject form, which is from SUNY Plattsburgh, the one that everybody, right, actually has to submit, and starting from there, who knows what else you need to submit? Definitely your CV, all the protocols, all the instruments, everything that needs to be in a way supporting your application, right? Everything has to be airtight, and you need to explain why you do whatever you do. All right, so you're using a questionnaire to collect information about mental toughness. I need the questionnaire. Okay, that's an example. Or you're using a protocol for weightlifting. I need the protocol. And if it's your protocol, then I'm going to need a lot of explanation. If it's a protocol that has already been used, that's better, because then you don't have to justify why you're using the protocol. You're just using something that's already been proven to be working. Okay, and those are the things that I'm going to be looking at. All right, done with that. Again, office hours and synchronous meeting tomorrow. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to start sharing our first chapter for today, chapter 22, which is right here. All right. Peer review process. Is this working? Okay. So here today, we've done all this work and we are here. So we're going to talk about these two things. And actually, we're going to cover these three things and how at the very end, your own work becomes body of knowledge. Okay. A couple of terms, not a lot as usual. So what is peer review? As you can see, it's systematic. There's a system behind it. It's unbiased, as much as we can. We're all biased. Evaluation of scholarly scientific work by one's peers. Okay, that leads to a decision about whether that work gets accepted or rejected for journal publication. So there is a process behind it. Your own peers are evaluating your work, and at the very end, there's going to be a decision. So those key holders are going to decide if your work will be accepted or rejected for publication. Why do we do that? As you can see, it's for quality control. Is it the best method? No, that's far from perfect. That's the best way we have so far. And I'm going to explain a little bit. And there's a little bit of deviation between journals, okay? But we'll talk about the basic idea behind it. And the rationale behind it is we have a very systematic way to judge the quality of scholarly scientific work. And if it's worth it to be out in the public or not. Okay? All right. Let me put this all the way down here. Why is it important? Well, it is important because something needs to be published. That's how you complete the circle. You do the research, it has to go out. Dissemination of the result is part of our job. So we need to do that. In order to do that, though, we have to go through this process. As you can see, if it is ethically performed, sound statistical analysis, those are now, like, we're going into the details. If it is innovative in any way, if the results are significant or not, right? Theoretical implications, practical implications, whatever. So everything needs to be checked. Okay. Now, how do we pick a journal when we're ready? First of all, we need to pick a journal that is interested in what we're doing. So if you're doing something with biomechanics, you would find a journal that publishes stuff about biomechanics. You can't just go to molecular something, because it doesn't make sense. So first of all, there has to be a good fit between what you are doing and what they are looking to publish. Okay, now, besides that, once you find 5, 10, whatever, you need to figure out which one is the best for you. Okay, and then you go a little more into detail to see if your specific study would be a good fit for a specific journal. In the beginning, you have no idea what's going on in out there, but as you become more and more experienced, you already know 2 or 3 journals, or even just one, that you would just go for, even by the time you start thinking about an idea of a study. Okay, you know what is out there pretty much and where you would like to go. So you have a plan A, plan B kind of situation in your head. All right, so you submit it. And as I know, I am an editor, and I am a reviewer. So we'll talk about all these things. I can tell you a lot of stories, and also I'm also an author. So I'm an author, I'm a reviewer, and I'm an editor. And when we get so when you submit something, it may be checked by the editor after the administrative stuff, of course. And the editor may think it's not a good fit for the journal, or it may be a good fit of a journal, like the title. But the article, the actual manuscript, is of lower quality than whatever they want to publish. So then you may get rejected. It's called administrative rejection or desk rejection. So they don't even send it out to the peers that we were talking about. So the editor sees it and like, no, that's chemistry. We're doing biology. How is this? Right? That's administratively rejected. Or the editor just reads through like, nah, that's not very innovative. It's not very significant, whatever they did. And we're looking for more of whatever. And this is not. So you're out. Okay. Which hurts if you are an author. But the good thing is if you get administratively rejected, that's very fast in the process. So you know very early in the process that you can take that and submit it somewhere else, right? Okay, so how do you pick a journal? IF, impact factor, is what everybody is using for the most part. Is it the best way? No, but it's very common. So it is the number of citations the past 2 years from that journal divided by the number of articles. So if it's a 2.4, it means that on average, the past 2 years, the manuscripts that were published have been cited by 2.4 times. Okay, age index, number of publications. So if it's a 4, you have 4 publications that have been cited 4 or more times. And that the age index is something that has to do with the authors as well. So you can go to Google Scholar, you can put my name and you can find my age index, pretty easy. So if somebody has 20, that means that he or she have 20 papers with 20 publications or more, which would be amazing. Okay. And then another way to pick the journal is how fast are they, how the acceptance rate. If they have really low acceptance rate, means they're going for the really specific, something really specific, or they're like top tier. So do you want to go there? Who's reading it, right? A lot of times if you go to an ACSM journal, you know that ACSM members read it, or NSCA members read it, or so that's important as well. And the abstracting and indexing service is their databases, and we talked about databases, right? So is that journal included in those databases that you want? If it's not, then maybe you don't go there. The good journals are indexed in the best databases, obviously. Okay. All right, so you submit your manuscript. Finally, you wrote it, you submit everything, the manuscript, the tables, the cover letters, the appendices, if you have supplemental material, you put it in there, electronic supplemental material that it will just stay up there. It's not going to be actually printed, everything, whatever they ask you to do. Awesome. Then administrative stuff checks if it's okay with the guidelines, and it goes to the editor-in-chief. If it's a huge journal, it may have section editors, okay? And then, for example, I am a section editor for a journal, and my section is behavior and psychology. So the chief editor, there are more than one, I guess, I think, 2. So they will just check it and then throw it to the section editors. And then I get it now, right? That step is not there. But let's say I'm the editor, right? Doesn't matter if I'm the editor-in-chief or section editor for this example. So I take it, I see it, I read it, and then I need to go out and find reviewers, peers, right? Peer review process. So it may be 2, it may be 3, depending on the journal. I'm trying to make them to commit. Once they commit, I give them a deadline, and then they come back with their recommendations. They can say, reject, accept with major revisions, accept with minor revisions, or accept. Those are basically, we've talked about that before. Then I get it and I have to register a decision, right? and it can be any of those. Let's say it's accepted major revision. So the authors, they need to accept our decision and then make the revisions and send it back. Then I send it back to the reviewers that they reviewed it before, and that thing can go back and forth many, many times, right? Until this journal is accepted or rejected. Okay, so at some point we're here. I have to make my final decision. Let's say it is accepted, and then that's great. The authors are happy, and then it goes to more administrative staff that they check. They check the proofs, right? And then the authors check the proofs, and then it goes to print. So a lot of times we have pre-prints, and then we have the actual thing. That's the whole process. So how can you navigate? Of course, conduct a quality study, and that's what you're trying to design right now, okay? Then you have to actually write it in a very, very nice way. Sometimes, because it's hard for journals to find reviewers, they may ask you to suggest reviewers. Some people like that, some people don't like that. And if it's a huge journal, which had happened to me once, you may even have to suggest an editor because they have so many editors. If they send it back, that's great. You do the revisions. So a lot of times there are general comments, and also there are specific comments like point by point. And you have to when you reply point by point. So line 3, 4, 6, they said this. What did you do? You accept the recommendation or not? And what did you do? So the revision process takes a long time for the authors as well. So they have to go comment by comment and maybe create a table and be like, this is what we did. And then you submit 2 copies of the manuscript. The old manuscript and the new manuscript with the changes which may be highlighted for the reviewers to see the differences. So there's a lot going on just for you and for us, for everybody to read one article. The last thing that I still haven't managed yet is to accept rejections gracefully as an author. It still hurts me so much. I'm not gonna lie. So you put in so much work and sometimes it gets rejected and you're like, oh my goodness. Oh my God. But it is what it is. And for whatever reasons, they didn't like it, they didn't accept it. A lot of times you can take the suggestions and submit it somewhere else, of course. And if they don't tell you why, you can ask why, right? But usually when the reviewers make recommendations and they give you feedback. So the editor, even when the editor says I have to register decision and it is rejected, he or she shares the feedback. So yeah, it is. It's a big thing when you open that email. It says rejection. I can tell you that for sure. Anyway, SSM, one of their best journals is MSSE, so they're using that as an example. Nothing too fancy, just an example to see how a specific journal works. This is how they train their reviewers, what to look for. They usually give you templates, or they may have a specific point system, scoring system, different journals, different processes, but at the end of the day, the whole thing is the peer review process. Okay. Now, why would you serve as a peer reviewer? That's a good question. So that's a good question. So it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time to read everything, citations, references, make sense, give feedback, and then you may come back 2 or 3 or 4 times. Just not once, just full on journal. So what do you get out of this? It's service. It's service to the profession. We all do it. We don't get paid for that. We spend a lot of time. But I can tell you that it's a great learning opportunity. You learn a lot. And you have that power, quotation, to be the gatekeeper and actually have a say on what is published or not. And it is great if you see it from the perspective, not that I'm against the author. We're in the same team, and I give you feedback so we can make this manuscript better, so we can make our literature better, because obviously you're working in the same field, right? That's why they asked you to do it. So that's how I see it. And I'm trying to be always positive. You know, sometimes other reviewers can be a little bit more critical. I can be critical, but in a very, try in a very positive way. And even if I don't like something, I give specific feedback to make it better. And again, it's time consuming, energy consuming, but I we learn, and it is an ethical obligation to help our field move forward, and that's one way to do it. All right, that's the first one. Let me stop sharing, and I'll go to the second and last chapter of our book, man. Wow, that is amazing. Okay, chapter 23. Let me find it. Here it is, I think. Yes. What's the buzz? Okay. Excuse me. Creating a lay translation of your discovery. All right. So here we're published, but we're trying to disseminate the results even more. So you're a scientist. What do the scientists do? They just observe. They see something interesting. They have a wow moment. They check for patterns, and then they try to figure out why that's happening. Okay, we're just curious. And that's pretty much what you're doing right now with your proposal. You see something and you want to investigate more. You saw something, right? Now, when you're sharing your work, and I'll tell you right now, I've been trying to do a lot of this through YouTube, but mainly Medium, which is a website for writing. And it's not easy to write something that you have conceptualized and published in a very scientific way, in a very scientific language, to describe it in a way that is understandable, but also doesn't lose the point. And the majority of people can understand it. It's challenging. It is interesting because you're moving from scientific to creative writing, but you know there are red thin lines that you cannot cross. Anyway, so our work is part of our work is to make sure our discoveries reach as many people as possible, right? So when we do that, we need to investigate the audiences, the channels, the journalists, and the messages, and we're going to talk about all of this. So I always say that in class when I have presentations with the undergrads, and I always tell them, when you're presenting something, know your audience. You wouldn't present the same way, whatever you're presenting today, if there were bunch of adolescents in this classroom compared to a bunch of PhDs, doctors, right? Same topic, you would present it differently. Why? Because they're different audiences and they have different interests, and they can understand differently. So you need to adjust. Okay. For example, I'm coming to the US soon, and I have a big presentation, and it's with strength coaches, the best strength coaches in the country. And I need to present things in a way that they understand them. It makes sense to them. Not I'm better or not. It's just you need to take into consideration your audience. That's how it is. That's the way to. That's a, that's one of the ways to make sure that communicate that you can communicate your message more efficiently. That's the point, right? Different audiences: scientific community, general public, educated professionals, like the coaches I just talked to you about, science enthusiasts, elected and appointed officials, and business community. Also, I think in May 5th, I'm speaking in our ethics department, right, about something, and I know they're going to be um, students, but also they're going to be professors and administrative staff, meaning chairs, deans, and even maybe the president. So in those points, it's a little bit tricky to try to create something that can touch everybody. But still, the more you know your audience, the better. Channels, you know, podcasts. How popular are podcasts right now? Okay, and what's going on with social media and all the mobile platforms that we have? It's crazy. It is crazy. Infographics is really something cool because we also see it now. You see those scientific posters we go to conferences. Now there is a tendency to make them infographics so they can be read easier and by more people. I just wanted to mention it there. Um, that's just an example of what we have out there: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Right now, big. LinkedIn has been getting bigger and bigger. Um, and then all these different platforms and ways and mediums, and you see that there's the online part, there's the print part, there's the broadcast part. It is crazy. Of course, you see the weight shifting. We don't care about printed that much, but we do care a lot about online a lot, right? At least for the past 2 decades. So again, we need to choose wisely when we're trying to do this. And our book talks about journalists, for example, right? And we see here two people trying to communicate in how what they think about each other. So the journalist says, talks about the science and that ill prepared to cover this topic, superficial, satisfied with partial explanations, right? The scientist, the journalist, incapable of straightforward communication, boring, unable to summarize. So, yeah, okay, we're all different, and that's why when you talk to somebody, like you will try to explain to me. I told you creating an avatar, right? I told you, imagine I'm the music professor in the ethics committee. I'm 65 years old, full professor. I have no idea what you're talking about. Explain. So you would explain your project to me way differently because I have different interests. I'm the ethics committee, right? And I am who I am anyway. And then if your parent or your friend asked you what was that project about, you would describe it very, very differently. So the same here. So know where, know who you're talking to, and make sure they understand you. That's not easy, but try to get into their shoes and see you talking to yourself and be like, will they get it? Will they think I'm boring? Will they think I'm not straightforward? Will they think that I can't tell a story? Um, what is going on? And that's the same here with two people coming from two different backgrounds, but they have to communicate. So here, as you can see, like how can you make it happen, right? How you can communicate your message, understand, here focus, approach, and deadline. And we're talking a little bit about empathy now, understand the other person, right? And then tell the story in a way that we can get it. What are you? A scientist or a storyteller? It depends. Can you do both? Can you wear both hats? Can you be a scientist when you have to be a scientist? Can you be a storyteller when you um, need to be a storyteller? So when you're talking to people that are outside your field, don't use those big words. Do not try to explain all the details. I can tell you that um, also I am, that's a great example. I got an email last night they from Universidad de Colima, which is in Mexico, and they want me to present about mental toughness and how it could help undergrad students. Cool, cool. I'm like, all right, thanks. And then I know I have presented the same thing, for example, or I'm going to present it this Tuesday to our student athletes, or very similar. I know what I know. And I know that the two audiences are different because of many reasons, including language, that our student athletes have watched a lot of my webinars, and we've done a lot of things. So they have the background information there, and they have the basic knowledge. And those students in Mexico have no idea who I am. And so that's a great example for me to tell you that different audiences, different story, although I'm talking about the same thing. Okay. And when I need to be a little more scientific, I'll be a little more scientific. When I need to be a little more storytelling, I'll be that. I'll be that. And it is okay. Because I have an issue, and I'm going to be honest. Like when I am being more of a storyteller, I think that a scientist will watch my video and be like, that's not very scientific. And I had that issue in my head. But you can do both sometimes. And I guess my response would be, well, this was not supposed to be scientific. Right? I'm talking to this kind of audience, and that's the way that's what I decided to do in order to communicate my message the best way I could. Okay, so to answer this question, it depends on the audience. I'm trying to be as scientific as I can, even if that's 20%, in order to communicate my message to whatever audience I'm speaking to, right? I'm always trying to be scientific, but I'm not trying to be too scientific for the audience. So yes, you need to keep the story. That's what I was trying to say. You need to keep the story as accurate as possible, but don't take it too far. Again, the too far part is it depends situation. So it depends on the audience. That's very, very important. Same thing if it's television, television is more about image. You need to be different. If it's about writing, put a lot of infographics, make it more. For example, for me at Medium, I start with bullet points. So I'm like, this is it. And then I talk about it, throw some infographics there that are easy to read, and then I put another summary. And I'm trying to keep it 5 minutes, like a 5-minute read, and that's it. So depending on the medium, depending on the message, depending on the audience, you have to adjust. It takes time. It's challenging for sure. All right, and that's about it. Before closing here is, I read an actual scientific paper like 2 months ago about MDs, cardiologists in California actually, and they were comparing their Twitter value to their actual value as doctors, and the rankings were very, very different, which I found very, very interesting. So their Twitter value, because they were doing this and people were following them and they were listening to them, was for the most part different than their actual value as doctors, like in the actual market of practitioners, which are called doctors. All right, so guys, again, hello 2223 for those same chapters. Office hours tomorrow from 11 to 12, and our synchronous meeting for 45 minutes from 11 to 11:45. Work on your draft. The more you work now, the less you have to work later on. And I hope I see most of you tomorrow. If I don't, please shoot me an email. I'm flying in the States this week, so my schedule will be a little bit weird. I'll be in Texas, and then I'll be in New York, and I'll go back to Texas. So I'm flying a lot, but hopefully everything goes well. But I'll be on my computer most of the time, and I'll try to communicate as quickly as possible, as I always do. But if you can make it tomorrow, let's visit. All right.